Kia ora, ladies and gentlemen. This is Leonard Hong for the Ultimate Growth Experience podcast. So today I'm going to do a special episode because I think a lot of people don't really know much about me, and a couple of my mates told me that I should do like a one-on-one sort of podcast to talk to you about why I began this project and also as to how I really got into self-improvement. So let me just start off by acknowledging my mentor in Melbourne, Dale Bottom again. I know this has been about 7 months since I began this podcast, but it's been really a meaningful project, and I'm hoping to continue this. So, as everybody knows, that I'm really into the idea of habit building, of doing things that are meaningful, living life with purpose, fixing yourself essentially. So this idea of continuous growth, like this growth mindset, and I got into this particularly in health because a lot of guys actually bullied me. So I went to Westlake Boys High School, and from third form to about seventh form, a lot of guys really got on my nerves, and they just said a lot of nasty things about me. So for example, some of my friends, well, they're not even really friends, but my classmates call me pork chop, fat ass, said that I was a loser and that I didn't do anything with my life. And even my PE teacher, like, I'm not going to name him, but when I was doing the beep test in Westlake during the PE session, I got like 10.3, 10.4, but I was always behind, and and the teachers mocked me. They were saying, "Oh, look at this kid." And that really just made me reflect that I really needed to get my fitness together. And so around about sixth form, that's when I decided to really take the gym a little bit more seriously. I went down, I lost about 10 kgs back then as well. And that led me to hit the gym more and more. And then now it's just a full-time habit. I go about 4 times a week now because this habit began due to my obsession about proving others wrong, and since then, I'm a lot healthier now. So I really need to thank people back then for bullying me in a sense, because that negative energy, this idea of getting bullied by people and getting called names, and that really motivated me to do better. And so in a way, I need to thank those people. But I don't think that a lot of guys who do get bullied, so for example, if you're a person who's still getting bullied in uni or high school or primary school or even as an adult, like, you need to channel that energy. You really need to channel that energy, and you really need to use that feeling of resentment and anger and sadness to your advantage. And I think a lot of people refuse to do that, and they succumb to their old habits, and that's why a lot of people have not been able to be successful. So I was watching a podcast with Ben Shapiro and Lewis Howes. So Lewis Howes is he's a self-improvement author and podcast host. I'll leave his details in the description. And he talked about how when he was in high school, that he was in the bottom of the class in terms of exams, in terms of his intelligence. He sucked at spelling and mathematics, and he got really, really bullied. And I was able to really relate to that because I also faced the same thing throughout my time in high school. I wasn't the worst guy in terms of academics, but I was sort of marginalized from my group of friends, and the quality of friends that I had wasn't the best. I mean, they were basically pretending to be my friend and using that to mock me on the side, and basically say a lot of bad things about me to other people, but in front of me, pretending to be a genuine friend. And I faced that a few times, even now at uni sometimes. But that's what really motivated me to make sure that I continue improving and developing. And that's how I got my first habit, which was gymming, started. And then I was playing golf back then. I really considered becoming a professional golfer. You know, my idols were like Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, and people like Phil Mickelson. But I knew I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't really passionate about the sport. And that essentially led me to, just get into uni for the sake of it. I was doing a BA BCom college degree. I didn't know what I was going to major in. I was doing these random business courses that was just an essential part of the degree, like Business 101, Accounting 101, etc. And, I had no purpose. I was just like, oh, just going to uni, going to get a job, that sort of thing. And ultimately, I had no intellectual curiosity whatsoever. But, around about 2016 was when Bernie Sanders came really hard into my life, and I read his book, Our Revolution. I started looking into a lot of the intellectual debates in relation to policy, in relation to substantive things in relation to politics, and that ultimately led me to go on that pathway of discovering what social democracy is about and what political science is really about. And that's what led me to major ultimately in politics and also history. So, yeah, and that's what made me continue reading books about political order and, all these different philosophies that I really never took that much interest in when I was younger. And so here I am now, a person who always talks about politics. And that's one of the reasons why the Ultimate Growth Experience has a lot of political figures in the show, because I am passionate about self-development, and also I'm passionate about political science and politics. And so that's why I had my good friend Fale on, who talked about his life as a New Zealand diplomat, and obviously Dr. Don Brash, who was the former Reserve Bank governor. And, he was ultimately in charge of the disinflationary policies. But as a whole, I think this podcast is really going well, and I'm really happy about the feedback that I'm getting. But, I thought about that that I needed to talk to you guys about who I am and what I do and why I even began this. But, it was the bullying, it was the adversities that I faced. I was never an academic student. I didn't really take uni that seriously. And it's still work in progress, obviously, but I'm a lot happier than when I was about 3-4 years ago. And now I'm hoping to continue and to provide good content to you guys. And so I'd like to really, really thank you for the support. But it started with the weight. I was chubby. I had man boobs. I wasn't physically attractive. And that's what led me to really try and improve myself. And ultimately now I think I'm at a better place. I have a much higher caliber of friends around me who really do support me. And it's a reciprocal relationship within my friends who, they sometimes struggle, and I help them out in terms of helping that they develop academically, that they develop their body, their health, their mindset, and, the idea is persistence. So, I know there are a lot of people out there who say that self-development or self-improvement is more of a meme thing, but yes and no. It depends on whether if you really apply it or not. So my favorite phrase is to front load your pain. So if you don't want to do something, like if you don't want to study, or if you don't want to go out, or if you don't want to talk to that person on the bus or something, I just do it. And that's been a habit for me in the last couple of years, and that's what led me to have an amazing experience over in Melbourne and also Sydney. And that's what led me to continue reading and to continue to develop my mind and my knowledge base. And that's how I've been trying to help you guys out. Yeah, and that's what gets me going, and I'm hoping to continue that. And so yeah, but here's the thing, is that life is suffering. It really is. I know a few of you guys who are like, oh, why do you support Jordan Peterson's work so much? I know, I have disagreements with the guy. There are a lot of things that I don't like about him. For example, he's not a fan of meditation. I don't think he takes philosophy seriously. He's not really a politics expert. He's more of an expert in clinical psychology, which he should be, but he does get into other topics, and that's what leads to controversy. He's right on a lot of stuff, but he is also wrong on a few things. But he motivated me like a lot during 2017, and that's why I talk about him. And he's not the only heroes that I have. I have a lot of other intellectual and also political heroes that I look up to. And like I mentioned, Lewis Howes is one of them, and another person is Robert Greene. You know, his book Mastery is exceptional. The idea of getting your social intelligence sorted out, that you can't just be the person who gets a lot of money, who gets a lot of knowledge. That's not the only thing that gets you success. You need to have a network of people. You need to build your social intelligence, your emotional intelligence, and those are the things that I will talk about in the near future. And obviously, I'm hoping that I'll get great guests on my show. Continue to get great guests on the show, and so that I could learn myself, but also to tell other people, and not just tell other people, but rather just to show exemplars of people who have done well in society. And the good thing is that guests that I've had so far, like for example, Sophie is an exceptional law student. She's running the Equal Justice Project. She's been one of the most outgoing law students that I know at uni. So I'm just hoping to see younger, female university students or high school students who are looking for a legal career to look at role models like that. And also, I get my friend, Farley to talk about what's it like to work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade and being a diplomat, for example. Like there are people out there who have failed and failed again, but they've overcome all of the adversities. They've overcome all of the hardships that they faced. And in a way, I'm one of them. I don't consider myself successful yet, but I'm hoping to make an impact in the long run where I make sure and look after my friends, but also look after my subscribers on this podcast, and to see people change their lives. I might be one person, but I just feel that I can make a one-on-one difference when I say stuff. And if I'm honest, guys, I'll just tell you something that's been really getting my mind, is that I know I'm an Asian male. There's a lot of stereotype about Asian guys in Western societies, and I'm not a fan of that. I talked about this with a few of my friends at uni and also others, and the reality is that Asian males have the worst reputation in the dating field, and I can see why. But I want to address that. So I'm using my podcast as an avenue to also tell my fellow Asian males, particularly, there's a reason why there's a reputation that we have in Western societies, not just in the media, but also on social media and other avenues. And the only way that we can change that is we need to change. We need to integrate. We need to adapt. We need to learn how to be an attractive male, properly attractive male, and that can only come from excellence. And I don't mean just in the academics, because we have a very good reputation regarding mathematics, engineering, STEM subjects, science, and just being really nerdy people. There's nothing wrong with being nerdy, but you have to have that social aspect as well. You have to be able to be charismatic, charming, being able to network, and just wooing people in a way that just tells you, oh God, this guy is brilliant. That's what really got me into politics, because I looked at people like, Steven Pinker and obviously Jordan Peterson and other academics, but also, politicians and the likes of Jacinda. I'm hoping to get her on my podcast sometime in the future. But, how are these people able to be so articulate and so charismatic and just charming? That's what, more Asian males should be looking into. You might be academically excellent, you might be earning a lot of money, but that's not the only part of the attractiveness element that I think that Asian males should look into. And the problem is that a lot of you guys, sorry guys, this is nothing against you. I can relate to you, as an Asian male myself. There's a lot of problems in media. They portray us so negatively, and that's one of the reasons why we don't have the best reputation. But also, we need to work on ourselves as well. It's that, this idea of the exogenous factors. Yes, there are problems that come from the exogenous factors, but you can't just rely on them to say, oh, change the stereotypical image that we have. No, we need to develop our own sense of masculinity ourselves. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I began this podcast, is to show and to talk about what I did in the last 3 years that allowed me to, get internships, know and network with certain politicians and business leaders, learning how to be a good student and learning how to develop the CVs and just knowing people. I see you guys like at uni, right? Is that, look, you guys are brilliant engineers, brilliant mathematicians and all that, but you need to do other things to overcome that stereotype. And like I said before, that's one of the key reasons why I began this podcast. The fact that I was bullied being fact, the fact that I was not the most successful guy in academics, in life, the fact that I am an Asian guy and, I have this certain imagery by other people and females as well. So those are the main factors, but also to tell people that, hey, the only way that you're gonna, see change is to change yourself. Like, fix yourself, get your act together, take responsibility, look after your family, build new habits, eliminate bad habits, go out and talk to people. Don't be that guy that lives inside his mom's basement playing video games. Eliminate and stop wasting time, because those are the things that I will continue to talk about, because I'm seeing this all the time, is that people who say that they're going to do something, they don't really actually commit to that. And then about 5 months later, they tell me, oh, I'm not doing well, Leo. And I go, well, why? Have you really done and completed all the things that you said you're going to do? And if the case is no, then obviously you're not going to do well. That's the case, right? And that's that. We have to develop ourselves. Ignoring the Asian male identity question. Just successful people in general. Fail again. Just keep on failing. Apply for things. Do extracurricular activities. Socialize with people. Learn and listen and apply the principles that successful people have taken board. I'll give you a prominent example. Dr. Henry Kissinger. I know he's not well respected or loved by the public because of what he did in Vietnam and Cambodia, but I read his biography by Dr. Neil Ferguson, and this man was a absolute madman in terms of social networking. He knew everybody, and not only that, because he knew Fritz Kramer during World War II, that was what allowed him to get into Harvard through the GI Bill and get a full-time scholarship. And if he didn't know people like Nelson Rockefeller, he wouldn't be the so-called foreign policy man that we know today. Regardless of what he did back then, the point is that all successful and highly competent people have taken on certain elements and components of those that have done well, and they incorporated into their own lives. So, for example, the 3 habits that I talk about on my YouTube channel is meditation, reading, and hitting the gym. And the reason is because that increases your social market value. And it has served me well, and I'll continue to do so. But there are other elements that you should learn. Learning from other people. Being open-minded and making yourself formless. Constantly trying new things and building new habits, or even learning your language or skills that can really increase your competency around the world. And that's the key thing. It's like I said, it's not the meme of self-development isn't just try this and you'll be successful. It's no, you have to constantly pursue and persist. But it's not just that, by the way. So, as you guys know, I'm a guy who loves political science, and I'll probably do further things related to political science. I'm lucky because I have this passion and commitment to this particular subject. I know a lot of people who don't have that element. They don't have a purpose. They don't have a goal or a meaning. Or it's like, well, oh, I'm just going to do this 9 to 5 thing. Yeah, but keep looking and don't settle. If I could quote Steve Jobs, keep on trying to find that thing that'll get you going. So there's a combination of a few things, right? Right. I got bullied, and then I decided to hit the gym. Then I got into self-improvement. Then I discovered Bernie Sanders, and then I discovered politics, and I found my passion. And then, here we are now where I'm running this podcast. Yeah, that's that for me. But the main goal is to see peers and see other people figuring out what their passion is, figuring out and helping people look up and get the key ingredients that successful people have incorporated. And that's that, yeah. And when you look at, like I said before, Henry Kissinger, social networking, and he read like a madman. He read so many books. His PhD thesis was all about Immanuel Kant and idealism. Like, this guy was obsessed intellectually. And the habit making and the goal structures that he had was what really made him go forward, and eventually became, a well-known Harvard University professor who wrote the book called Nuclear War and Foreign Policy. I think that's the title of the book. But then he went into the Nixon administration and joined the cabinet as the national security advisor, and then eventually Secretary of State. A realist, a real politics sort of guy, a bit of an idealist and a realist at the same time. I know I'm going into a tangent here, but the point is, this guy knew what he was passionate about. He cared about freedom. He cared about certain value structures within his conscience and his real passion for international relations and geopolitical strategy. That's a key historical example. My passion comes from politics because one thing led to another. Bernie Sanders came into my life through YouTube, and then I read his book, and then more books, and now I'm obsessed with this sort of stuff. So that's why I got really lucky. But you guys have to figure out what that is too. You guys have to figure out what you're passionate about. So my good friend Jeffrey Choi is obsessed with engineering science. The only thing that he looks about is structure and, what builds great infrastructure and, Python and algorithms that I have no idea what he talks about, but he's passionate about it, and he's going to be a very successful person. There are key exemplars that you see at uni and society that okay, that person's going to do well because of the key habits and the things that they talk about. And that's that. You got to figure out your passion. But also, if I could refer back to what, Ben Shapiro and Lewis Howes talked about before, Lewis got bullied like mad. He was living in his sister's basement. He couldn't pay rent. His relationship with his girlfriend was not going well. His business was crumbling. And, but take advantage of the adversities and continue building on from that. And that's what I would like to say to you guys, is to, never stop growing, continue developing, and follow what other successful people do. That's what I'm trying to do. I look at not only self-help books but biographies. I need to read Walter Isaacson's book related to Leonard da Vinci. What made him a genuine polymath? What did this man do during the Italian Renaissance to become the historically renowned figure he is right now? Looking at people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, those things. You have to read, and you have to just, it's like a cheat code for a video game, but for life. Books are that to me, because it provides you with so much information and just insights and viewpoints that you might not have seen before. And that's why I find books to be amazing. Gym, for another example, gymming is that's what makes me feel happy and stronger. And it just releases the dopamine naturally. You don't want to have dopamine coming to you all the time, because that's the thing about social media. And I'm guilty of that too, by the way. But, social media has really undermined our ability to really get the genuine reward system, which comes from doing something hard and getting a reward for it, like, working hard and getting like the dopamine spike or something. But we get that too easily through music, through pornography, through social media, through YouTube, and a number of other avenues. So it's really, really hard, this stuff, because we have more distractions. But the positive thing is that you can channel and find ways to use technology to your advantage. So that's our mission. That's our generation's missions. There's always going to be distractions, but it's about being committed and persisting on what you want to do in life. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Like, I got into self-development because I was bullied and a lot of people rejected me. And I meant as friends and also intimately. And that led me to hit the gym harder and, try to become better and more competent at what I like doing. And, then eventually I found my passion in politics and obviously my commitment to figuring out what successful people do and, helping spread the message. And I'm hoping that will help you guys too. So I know this has been about like a 26 minute, short podcast about me and, what really got me going and why I talk about political science in my podcast, even though it should be a self-help podcast. I mean, it is a self-help podcast because, a lot of my guests talk about, what they did when I was younger, when they were younger, what led them to take certain subjects and try to become an expert about it, and how they became really competent individuals that they are. So that's that. Yeah, that's about it really. But in relation to politics, like, I'm gonna get a variety of people. I had Louisa Wall on. She is, she works hard at the gym and she's an okay MP, and people like, my sort of mentor, Dr. Don Brash as well. So it's sort of like that, really. But yeah, I faced hardship. I'm willing to learn more about life. I'm reading constantly about what constitutes a good society, looking at history, looking at politics books, looking at, self-help books, and talking to people constantly and asking them questions and really figuring out, well, what makes you tick? What makes us tick? What is human nature? Why are we here? Is free will real? Is determinism real? What empirical evidence is there that supports the case towards these elements? What could we do daily or week to week or month to month to really see ourselves change through a period of time? Because the fact of the matter is that we're all going to die at the end of the day. So it's about, maximizing our time wisely, fulfilling our purpose, and really just being committed to being excellent human beings. So that's that. And so, yeah, hope you learned a little bit more about me. And hopefully I'll do more of these more often, because I think it's really, really cool that I'll be able to talk to you guys in a way and you learn more about me, and yeah, keep on growing, keep on listening, hopefully, and just be you. Just like, don't be apologetic about who you are as a human being. Like, don't change for the good. Obviously, continue to adapt, but if you believe in something, like, stick to it, and don't give a damn about what other people say, and just persist and go towards your goals and do whatever it takes to be successful. And as long as you do it, then people around you will be happier. Your parents will look at you in a much prouder way, and I've seen that from my parents. And never stop growing. Continue to learn, read, meditate, go out, talk to people, network, and just be the best version you can be. And that's my goal, is that I don't care who you are or what background you're from. If you're living at home with a computer, you can get all kinds of information through the internet, and just use it. Don't be lazy and do it. Front load your pain and commit to whatever you love or whatever you think is right. And so that's that. I'll be uploading my podcast with Jamie McDonald and Adrian Hoffman next week. These guys are brilliant entrepreneurs and they're good friends of mine. Yeah, hope you enjoy that. And I'll talk to you guys again soon for another one-on-one podcast like this. So thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a good week. So thank you. Take care.